Welcome. We're just setting up our webinar. I feel we'll be live in just a few moments. What an incredible life. What an incredible documentary. On behalf of I'm Joanne Graziano, the Executive Director of the Boston Women's Film Festival, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Women's Film Festival and MIT's Comparative Media Studies Department. I would like to welcome all of you in the audience to our discussion of Hope I'm in the Frame in celebration of Women's History Month. As you all probably know, Michal Bat-Adam has just been awarded the 2021 Israeli Prize in Cinema. I would like to thank our partners, the Boston Jewish Film, Massachusetts Israeli Women's Organization, and most importantly, the Consul General of Israel to New England, whose idea it was to sponsor this event. And I would like to welcome right now, Ambassador Meron Rubin, the Consul General of Israel to New England. Ambassador Rubin has a diplomatic career spanning over 3 decades, during which he has served in various positions, such as Israel's ambassador to the UN and Israel's chief of state protocol. Ambassador Rubin is father to Hen and Liad and partner to David. Ambassador Rubin.
Thank you, Joanne. The Consulate General of Israel to New England is really proud to be helping to host this inspiring program in honor of Women's History Month. And we'd really like to extend our gratitude to the Boston Women's Film Festival and to Boston Jewish Film for co-hosting this event with us. And of course to you, Joanne, for moderating today. I would especially like to thank Natalie Brown and Lior Elephant for joining us today and sharing their insights from behind the scenes of the Israeli film industry. An additional thank you, of course, to Amir Tadmor, our cultural attaché, for organizing this screening and conversation. I couldn't think of a greater creator that embodies the journey undergone by Israeli women filmmakers more than Michal Bat-Adam. The many challenges overcome by Michal since the 1970s through to 2021, as we've seen on Hope I'm in the Frame, tell the story of a whole generation of women film directors, not only in Israel, but worldwide, even in Hollywood, the heart of the world's film industry, where for the first time, 2 women are nominated side by side for an Academy Award for Best Director. Despite the continuous fight of Michal and a line of successful and acclaimed filmmakers such as Natalie Brown, which has led to significant achievements, the last of which, of course, Michal receiving the Israel Prize, there is still a long way to go, as Lior's report clearly shows. We hope that you'll find this conversation interesting and insightful. Thank you.
And now it is my honor to introduce the panelists for our discussion today. Lior Elephant is the head of the Israeli Women in Film and Television Forum. Lior is a PhD candidate at the Sociology and Anthropology Department, Ben Gurion University at Negev. Her research, supervised by Professor Nitza Berkovich, deals with gender inequality in the Israeli film industry. Lior's latest report, that many of you may know, The Celluloid Ceiling, a Gender-Based Analysis of the Israeli Film Industry, was published last month by ADFA Center. Natalie Braun's work is extensive. Her documentary, Metamorphosis, which weaves together testimonies by women who were victims of rape with myths about sexual violence, was released in 2006 to rave reviews. Her short film, Gewalt, in 2008, won first place at the Tel Aviv LBGT Film Festival, at the Paris Queer Film Festival, and at the Goethe Institute's competition. Hatalyan, the documentary film that Braun produced and directed with Abigail Sperber about Adolf Eichmann's hangman, won first place at the Haifa International Film Festival of 2010. Her short film, Vow, won the Short Independent Film Awards at the Jerusalem Film Festival of 2014. the Best Directing Award at the Independent Film Festival competition of the Student Film Festival in 2015, and first prize at the Seoul International Women's Film Festival. We hope to give her a prize in Boston someday as well. As you well know, her documentary film, Hope I'm in the Frame, about the director and actor, Michal Bat-Adam, received a special mention at Doc Aviv Film Festival and won the Ofer Israeli Academy Award for Best Short Documentary in 2017. It is my great honor to turn over this discussion to Natalie and Lior so that we can hear what you have to say about the production of this film and Michal's work and the Israeli film industry and women in the industry. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for this amazing introduction. First, thank you for this opportunity also to be here in Boston while in Tel Aviv. And thank you, Veron, and thank the consulate, and thank you for having us.
So,
Lior, I'd like you to start by kind of saying something about the festival, about the industry, women in the industry in Israel. And I'd like to, and then I really want to thank Natalie for this amazing documentary, for bringing Michal's work to this kind of to the fore in this way. Lior.
Yeah. So actually, Meron almost took the words out of my mouth, because after watching this documentary, especially in this timing when Michal Bat-Adam is receiving the Israel Prize, and she is really, sorry, to say that I have flat white noses. Michal really embodies the work of women narrative film directors in Israel. She has directed the second narrative feature in 1979, Moments, and then for over 20 years, 30 years, she is still here making films, which is unbelievable when you talk about Israeli women filmmakers and men filmmakers, actually, because she has 12 feature films. It's wow. And Michal has been here for all along. When she's been here while women were making only 10% of the films in Israel from 1948, Israel's independence, till year 2000. Women made only 10% of the films. And she's still here for the first decade of the 21st century, when women are making more films, or now 20% of the films. And she's still here in the second decade of the 21st century, when actually the numbers are getting higher, not so much higher, but higher. And she's still making films. So we can see her everywhere, and I think it's amazing just to note that. I can also say a few words about that in the past 20 years, women has made a significant progress in filmmaking, in narrative filmmaking, because in documentary filmmaking, women have always been there. It's not that they, of course the numbers grow because there are more films, but it's not that the gender inequality is so significant in documentary. But in narrative, it is. And I think it's an honor for me to be here with Natalie, because one of the reasons that this progress happened in the first 2 decades of the 21st century was, without a doubt, the Israeli International Women Film Festival, which Natalie was the artistic director of, and we'll talk about it later on when we will discuss Natalie's work. And this film festival, which happened from 2004 to 2013, was one of the main stages for women to showcase their films, but also build a community of filmmakers, of women filmmakers. And the solidarity and the community building actually really helped improve women's situation in the Israeli film industry. Not because they of course, not only because they made more films together, but because it raised awareness to the fact that gender matters. And it matters a lot. And I have also a lot of other things to say, but I think maybe I will turn it over to Natalie and we can discuss it further in the dialogue.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting us. Lior mentioned the Women Film Festival in Israel, and actually this festival is connected directly to the making of this film. And the festival, as Lior mentioned, was established almost 18 years ago. And on its last edition, 8 years ago, we've decided to give Michal Bat-Adam an award for life achievements in cinema. And I curated a retrospective of her work, and I think that this was the starting point of that film. I was deeply touched by Michal's films. I've seen everything chronologically, and it was a profound experience. And I was also deeply touched by her character, and we became very close. And a few years later, Michal was working on her new feature. It was a low-budget film, and I wanted to help. So I asked her, what can I do? I meant, to hold the boom or something, or to give water to the actors, but she said that maybe I can come to the set with a camera and have some footage for a short making of clip or something after the feature is gonna be out. So that's what I did, and on the second day, I've seen one of my favorite scenes in Hope I'm in the Frame. I don't know if you remember the scene. It was when Michal was directing her husband that passed away 3 years ago, the filmmaker Moshe Mizrahi. And I saw it through my camera. They were sitting in front of each other. The white polystyrene is between them. Do you remember this scene? And I felt the tense, and then it occurred to me that there might be a beautiful documentary here about Michal. Wow. And her struggle and about love. So actually, this is how it all began. And, I think that that night I called her and I asked her if she wants that I'll make a documentary about her. And she told me, "Oh, come on, don't waste your time. Just write the script that you are avoiding so." That you are trying to avoid. This is how it began.
So, can I ask if you continue then at that point? Did you continue to, did you stop working on the work that that you were doing to accompany it, to help her with the making of that film, and kind of just shift into making the to working on the documentary?
No, I thought back then that I can do both, and I wasn't sure because it was the work on this film was different because Michal was a friend. And I also didn't have money, it wasn't planned. It just was step by step. I was there. I tried to be there every day, during the set, during the shooting of her feature. And since I was coming to Michal's and Moshe house anyway, as a friend. So I brought a camera with me, and whenever Michal only had one condition. She told me that she's not going to make anything special for the film. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
because you know that in documentaries, it's not really, you know, everybody's making it a little bit, there are a lot of fake scenes.
Right. There's the interview, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of made up. And the thing that's what really resonated with me when I first watched the film was how organic it feels. It really does. And I think I asked you a question about that, you know, when we were first talking about the film, that it really does feel really organic, that what's happening is just, we're just kind of, oh, you're allowed to be in their lives, you know, working on the film and being there. And that's the real tribute to how strong this film is and how important it is that Michal allowed that kind of access.
Yes, actually, you know, at the beginning, I was I wanted to bring a camera man or woman, and I wanted to bring a sound man or woman, but Michal told me no. If you want to do it, so do it by yourself. Do it small. I understood, because she didn't want, you know, people that she doesn't know to be inside her house, and so I'm not a camera woman, so I was not sure about that, but these were the conditions, so this is what I did, and I even edited it myself at the beginning, but then only after I had some money, so I could give it to an editor, and but I worked on this film almost 3 years, and it was you know, a little bit every time I was building or another scene, and I really try to understand what story do I want to tell, and what structure do I want to build, and only in the end I understood what I'm doing. It was a different method of work.
So,
You know that when, if I can just jump in,
please.
When Natalie is talking about being, you know, with no camera woman or cameraman or no sound and almost no budget. So I think one of the things we understood in the report, and it's also been recognized worldwide, is this is why there are more women in documentaries, because it's a smaller crew.
In the US too.
Yeah, in smaller crew and smaller budgets, you know. So women do make more films, they make more documentaries than narratives, and they actually in some cases maybe make even per year more than men, but the budgets are smaller and the crew and the film crews are smaller. And when we talk to women from the Documentary Film Forum and women in the industry who make documentaries, they say that it's easier for them to do it because it's less. Also, like Natalie said, for 3 years she edited it when she could, you know, and it combines better with your life. You are in charge of your own schedule, so you know. So I just wanted to say, even the method of the work is also gendered, but it actually contributes to the film, because I think it turns out to be a very special film because of that. I don't think it has some, you know, it's you can see how sensitive the work was and how to find out slowly what's going on, and a lot of thought is built into it.
Yes, it's not a regular working method in documentaries. And I mean, if my student will work like this, I will kill them. I mean,
Right.
my other films, you know, they were very scripted, although it was documentaries, but very scripted, and and I knew what I was doing. We had a crew, you know. It is a special. It was a special film, really, and it was structured with Michal conditions. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but this is I felt that I'm not gonna make a film like that again, or in that way.
Yeah.
This is for sure. I can also say that I was pregnant during part of the time, and I even remember there were a lot of intimate scenes behind the scenes of this documentary. And I remember that Michal was shooting Moshe's memories. Moshe was Moshe was already ill during the filmmaking of my film, and she knew that, and she was shooting his memories, and I told her that when she does that she will give me a call, and I will come immediately, and I will film her filming him. And since she could, I mean, it depended on how will he feel in that day. So it was. So when I was at the end of my 9th month of pregnancy, she just called. She called me and she said, "Listen, Moshe feels good today, so I think that I'm gonna film him now. So he told me that if I do it, so call me." And so to call you. So do you want to come? So I told her, yes, of course. Wait for me. Don't start. And and she told me, do you have a camera for me? Because she wanted to shoot him and she didn't have a camera. So I told her, yes, I'll ask a friend to give me another camera, and I'll come with 2 cameras. So so I went. I took my motorcycle with that huge belly, and I went with my camera, and I went to a friend, and he went down with a camera, and he looked at me, and he told me, "Wow, you are not normal." And I told him, okay. I took the camera. I went to her place, and I think that yes, this was the time that the ending scene of Hope I'm in the Frame was shot. I mean, I thank God that I was there that day. It was an amazing moment to be. I was wondering if I didn't know then. I didn't know if the camera caught what I felt when I was there. The name of the film actually was taken from that scene. So.
Did you know when you took that scene that would be the name, or No. But that those moments of when she's filming Moshe are the ones that are some of my favorites in the movie, because that's when I brought up that idea of the intimacy of the couple. They're so intimate in it, and even if we as the audience didn't know that he was sick at the time, there's something about that she's trying to document, something about that connection that the 2 of them have, and that you were able to film from. It's so meta, and yet at the same time so natural, and little did we know you were so pregnant.
Yes, Michal is she's a symbol, as Lior mentioned, and as the ambassador said. She's a great filmmaker, and she's also a symbol for so many women in Israel. So this award that she's being receiving now is, I think, it's just amazing news, amazing achievement.
We have so few role models you know,
Yeah.
to look up to. And Michal, she's one of the first role models, and she's always there, you know. So I really jumped. We published the report, and then a day later, it was announced that she's getting this prize. So it was, and we didn't know, of course, that she will be getting the prize. So it was almost magical moment that we are releasing this report, and then she's getting it. So for us, it was amazing. I literally jumped in my room when I heard it.
Well, it's well deserved, but it came later than it should have in some regards. That's for certain. That we know.
Better late than never, you know.
Better late than never. Absolutely.
The
Natalie,
recognition.
Natalie, do you want to talk about some of your work as a filmmaker, as a documentary filmmaker, and some of your own work and the work you're working on? What you're working on now, or for that matter, your work as a filmmaker, and maybe the distinction between working in feature and working in doing features and documentaries, and how make anything you'd like to say about that.
Actually, I don't find a real distinction. It's not. I mean, it's when I have an idea, it comes with a form. Sometimes it's a documentary idea, and sometimes it's a fiction idea. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I feel that I have more freedom in the documentary field because I can play more with ideas and images and ideology, and less with the story. I'm not sure that I'm clear enough, but I feel that I can be. I mean, there is the essay film, and there are more space to be experimental. So this is why I tend to do documentaries, although I have problems, ethical problems with this genre. So I always tempt to do it again and again. But now I also work on a fiction feature screenplay. And I'm waiting for it's finished, and I'm waiting for I'm raising money right now, so this is also a disadvantage in the fiction field.
Yeah, I mean, it's a disadvantage for fiction, especially original fiction. It is in the U.S. as well, but is it more of an issue because it's a film that's been put together by a woman? Do you think it has anything to do with gender as well in the industry?
Of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's true. It's still true in the U.S. as well. It really is.
Yes. Well, we have a long struggle ahead of us. It's not over yet.
But thanks to Michal, we've begun. And your work, we've begun. I'd like to. We have a couple of questions from the audience. Would you like to hear some of those? Or the org? So,
of course, yeah.
This comes from Mark Bernstein. Amazing film, and a minor note. Was part of the story playing obscurity, stories portraying the relative obscurity in which Michal has worked. Did you have any concern about sharing the tensions between her and Moshe? I also thought it refreshing that you didn't airbrush the matter of age and infirmity of Moshe out of the film. So the question is, do you feel like you're kind of expressing any of the question was, and I think you can probably see the questions as well in the Q&A. So
yeah, we can see it. Natalie, you can see it if you open the Q&A.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Now I can see. Okay.
I like the Errol Morris question. I think some of these questions actually speak to the issue of they're both successful directors. She had a lot of challenges in being a successful director, as the documentary also shows, but you also show that they're a couple who's aging together, and that is what you said was the thing about the film being about love as well.
Yes,
and I think
yes.
that's incredibly important. It's about, we're not seeing some glamorous, people who, and we know that they've won, awards and been in glamorous places. And we see glimpses of those parts of her life in the past, in the making of the first film, and, your acknowledgement to that. But you also, Natalie, really bring us, and that was the thing I was asking you about even the other day when we were speaking about the film, is that idea of the intimacy of they're an old couple growing old together, growing old together. It's wonderful that you did not address the idea that he was as sick as he was at the time. That doesn't come out in the film, and in a way that pays respect. To me, the film really does pay real respect to them, but while they allow you, and Michal allows you, into the home, and that's what makes it such a remarkable documentary in that way. Was there any time when you felt, I think one of the questions are asking you is, was there any time when you felt like you were exposing a little too much of their intimate life?
I don't think so. I wanted to show the complexity, but I saw love. I saw huge love that the name of the film was Until the Very End, was a love film.
Oh.
This was its name, yeah. So it was love for each other, and it was love for filmmaking,
Yeah.
and for films. So I didn't see, I didn't see the tension. I saw a woman that is fighting for her lover, for her man, for her husband, and that she goes and she's trying to raise money for his film because she wants him to work again. She knows that it will make him happy, and that in the middle of her set and of her shooting, she's calling the doctor to talk about the medication that he has to take, and even more than that, the life and the filmmaking are connected to each other. They are not separated from each other. That everything is connected in this home. So of course that naturally there will be a slight of tension between two filmmakers, but it was nothing. I mean,
Compared to,
yes, compared to the love, to the caring, and I really like the scene when she asks me about, that Michal says, have you ever tasted Moshe's egg? Moshe's eye? I don't know how it's
the eggs, yeah.
It's kind of an omelet. And this is the most amazing omelet that you've ever tasted. And she was all the time trying to cheer him up. And this is love in my eyes. And it's also, and in Hebrew, this kind of omelet, the name of the omelet is I.
Oh.
Is I egg. This is the name. So for me, as a filmmaker, but also as a person of words, I I think that eye is also, is kinoi. This is cinema. So this is a symbol for cinema.
Mhm.
So I don't feel, I mean, that, yeah, I feel that this is what I saw, and I think that this love that I saw is inside the film.
We do have a question about the kind of the Michal dealing with, kind of chauvinistic kind of, criticism of her coming from the world of being an actress who then becomes, and the kind of roles that she played where she was a beautiful, this person used the term, kind of sexy sex kitten, but but there's something about, so she's so beautiful, and that there was a there was chauvinistic kind of response to kind of her becoming a celebrated director. Do you want to address that at all, Lior?
Well, Michal's experiences, unfortunately, are not only her own. She experienced also chauvinistic remarks also for her about her looks, but also about her films. And we can see there was we have in Israel a film critic called Yael Shuv, and she wrote a very interesting article. Unfortunately, it's only in Hebrew, about the relation, the way a male film critic treat women's films, the films made by women. And she starts the article with Michal Bat-Adam's experiences as portrayed also in this film, but also in Israela Shayer Meuded work when she talked about it. And we can see that in general, until recently, actually, we cannot say that this was the 80s and people talked like that, until recently, women received these sort of responses. And of course, with Michal's case, it's even worse because she was an actress and she acted in her own films, but also she was an acclaimed actress, actually. And so her image was on the screen when she was directing it and when she was acting in it. But the criticism that she received was something almost any woman who made a film in Israel experienced. And I think it's amazing to see it on, firsthand on screen, and to understand what we go through, so that, not only is making films such an effort and a struggle, then we release it to the world. And this is the kind of recognition we get. I have to say that it is changing a bit today. It's far less than it was, but we can still see signs of it.
When I first met Michal, she told me that she got horrible criticism throughout the years, and I must say that I thought that she must be exaggerating, that it can't be that awful. And then when I went to the archives and I've read these texts, I was shocked. I was really shocked. I think that this is when I became obsessed about her. I wanted, it was years before I began to make this film. I was, Joanne, you are a film a festival director, so you know how much work it is. And I had only one thing in my mind that festival. I was just occupied that Michal will have a great experience, that she'll have a great retrospective, and that I brought my family and my grandmother to all of the films of Michal, because I wanted that there will be audience. And I was, I don't know why, I was I was hurt. I was hurt about this criticism. I was hurt about this all these years that they couldn't see her beautiful films. I mean, they couldn't. They just were blind.
You wanted to honor her and you wanted to champion her at the same time. I think that's what we do as women's film festivals. But you're right. I mean, I bring my family to everything too, so I do understand how. Yeah. And because it's just, I mean, as soon as I saw this film, I knew we wanted to bring it here to Boston for people to be able to talk about it, because, Michal's work deserves that. And so does yours, for that matter, Natalie. It really does. But the film, the one thing the film does is you do acknowledge, and you have that moment in the film where you kind of bring up, you put up some of those clips so that we know that she's been dishonored. We know that there's been this response, those of us who aren't, anyone who's not as familiar as with her work knows that there was this response, and that she was subject to some of that as well. But in the end, she rises above, your film and her work can make her rise above that. I do think that's true. I think that's one of the reasons why we have to have women's film festivals, is to keep championing women's work. One of the phrases we go by at the Boston Women's Film Festival is we say, women's film is not a genre. It's not that it's the gendered, right? But until people realize that, we're gonna keep making film festivals that kind of celebrate the work of women, and that's very true.
Yeah. Making film festivals, because Joanne, you are a director, and Natalie is a director, and also I am a director of a film festival, but a very much smaller one. And that making women's film festival is it's a political act. It's not. It's a political act. It's changing the world through art, and when we curate the films and make this, it's a statement. So I think Women's Film Festival, like Human Rights Film Festival, it's activism. It's some sort of social activism, cultural activism, and it's extremely important.
And some of what we've seen in some of the international film festivals as well is that they've started to listen to us, and we've seen more, not enough yet, but more women's work actually showing up. And so Sundance this year had over 50% representation of women, and that's the kind of work that we want to see continuing, absolutely, and works that are even more independent and more and willing to take risks, and that is important as well. We do have a comment from the audience from Heidi Meyer, and I want to share it. It's ironic that Michal, being an actress, would be a criticism of her directing. With men who cross over, it's a natural addition to their sensitivity to working with their players, and can only be seen as a plus, almost an advantage to their creative art. And do you want to comment on that? How men, actors who are male, who cross over, do they have it, do you feel that way, that they have it easier?
Do we have I can't remember.
No, we have Tzachi Grad, but
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually didn't make this research about men, so I feel like I cannot, but I can turn it into politics. If we can go for a minute to politics, and see how, because we have some cases also in the US and in Israel about women and men who were in media and turned politicians. You have Ronald Reagan, of course, and also Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so they are actors turned politicians, and we have Yair Lapid and Merav Michaeli, who are in media, journalists. So actually, I didn't make this research, but I know that it's easy. It's true that if you were an actor or a part of the media in some sort of like a celebrity, so you are more subjected to criticism than people who weren't. And I think it also goes for men. But I think that the criticism is different. I'm not saying that men do not get it. I'm sure they do. But maybe it's different. But also, I did not research this, so unfortunately, I don't have really an informed answer. Just the way I feel.
Natalie, you talked about some of your favorite moments in the film for yourself as a filmmaker. Can you tell our audience if there was a favorite moment that Michal and Moshe felt that was one of their favorite moments in the documentary? Can you reveal that, or if you can't, we will respect that.
No, I think that Michal has no favorite moment. Yeah, it was
Too personal.
Yeah, it was too personal, and it was the film. When the film came out, it was very difficult for her. But I must say that during the work on the film, I mean, I was at their place. She was in my place. She was helping with me. She was helping me to take care of my baby, and the editing computer was just there. And I told her, Michal, you must come, and I want to show you this scene and that scene. So she told me, don't show me anything because I will hate everything. So it was I can understand that. I mean, she let me go, but she knew that it will be a difficult experience for her. I mean, watching the film, and yeah, she gave me her blessing though. So
of course,
was important.
We had a question from the audience about the ethical responsibility of a documentarian. As a documentarian yourself, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Well, I think that the documentary genre is very, very problematic because this is a story of real people, and I think that there is always an inherent taking advantage of, in a way, of the subject of the film. You can't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that most of the time, both sides have an interest, right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So this is why this is very important to be extremely gentle and extremely aware to this inherent problem of the genre itself. After I made my first documentary that you mentioned, Joanne, about rape and incest, I decided that I will never make documentaries again. It was too much for me. It was, after the film came out, I mean, it was the first time that women in Israel exposed that were victims, that were rape victims, were exposed, and I felt that it's too much. It's a responsibility that I'm not willing to have. I mean,
right.
Again.
Yeah, because even if they chose to come forward, they couldn't have understood, and maybe you couldn't have understood the kind of the implications of that. And you probably saw it happening as you were working on it. Is that right?
Yes, and also because it was, I took it with me. I will take it with me to the rest of my life. It's very strong. It's so different than making a fiction film.
But however, you did make 2 films.
Yeah, and I will,
What
and I'm
happened?
working on a new one. Yes, because
Yeah.
you know, after a few years,
Decisions.
yeah, it's I'm being tempted because I have this sometimes these ideas, and I'm just doing it. I'm trying to I'm trying to be gentle. I don't know it. I also, you know, I'm a teacher, so I'm trying to make my students understand how much power they have in their hands, and that they must use it carefully.
In a way that's, but yet if it's when you get kind of, I mean, obviously when you became involved in doing this one, it was because you got to witness what was happening, you know, in their home, and you saw that love. Do you feel that when you choose the subject you're working on now, was it because you felt compelled that something had to be said about that? Or it was just something that piqued your interest?
I don't
Did you feel that you kind of, you know, that there's an issue that has to be, someone has to say that people need to see this? When you made the film about the young women and rape, I mean, was it because you felt that did you feel compelled that their stories needed to you believed that their stories needed to be heard at that time? And that's why you came forward, and you have to, of course, you have to do it with some gentleness toward your subject matters, but at the same time, you know, you needed to kind of, you felt compelled to do that. I know you're not going to, I don't want to ask you to tell us what you're working on right now unless you feel comfortable doing that, but I'm sure that both the fiction, both the feature piece and the documentary were probably compelled by things that you felt had to have some voices from where you come from. Is that right?
Yes, of course. Actually, because of my first film, because of Metamorphosis, I began to make films. I began to study how to make films. I didn't have a dream to be a filmmaker. Actually, not at all. I always loved to watch films, but I didn't have a dream to become a filmmaker. But I had this urge to write about rape experiences, and about rape and about the rape culture that we are experiencing as women. And I try to emphasize my ideas in many ways, and then I understood that to shoot these testimonies, this will be the best way. This is how I came to make films. When I was 24 or 23, I went for the first time to a film fund in Israel, and I was so naive. Yes, I told them that I want to make a 9 hours film like Shoah of Claude Lanzmann about the Shoah of women, which is, and they looked at me as if I'm crazy. This is how it began. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that. More power to you.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of filmmaking in Israel going, the two of you, since we're back down to our last 5
Well,
minutes?
maybe we should ask where or how do we see the future of Israel?
Of Israel.
We have elections. We have
elections next week.
Yes, we do know that. We are very aware of that.
So actually, I can answer Natalie's question and your question. It is in direct opposite directions. I am very optimistic for women in the film industry in Israel. I am extremely optimistic. I think we're struggling, and it is a struggle, and it will always be one. But the solidarity and the communities that were built during the years through the Women's Film Festival, and also the Israeli Women in Film and Television Forum, and other forums, and the fact we have more women in key decision-making places, it's a promising future for us as women in film. However, as women in Israeli society, much less so.
Yes, not just women, you know.
Yeah, no, but we're talking about women now, so yeah.
Yeah. Yes, by the way, my new documentary project is connected to men, and it is about the connection between the Israeli cinema and the army. This is an essay film that I'm really I'm just waiting to begin and work because I have things to say.
And we all want to hear them. I want to thank you, Natalie Braun. I want to thank Michal Bat-Adam for her amazing work. I hope that we will do a feature. We will feature her work here in Boston, as well as Natalie's work. Natalie Braun and Lior Elephant, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of the Boston Women's Film Festival and the Consulate General of Israel to New England for being with us today and for taking the time. And thank you to our audience for being with us and for enjoying this film as much as you have. Please promote it to other people as well, and comes to the Boston Women's Film Festival virtually or in person in the fall.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.